Hey everyone, this is a jam-packed show we have for you this weekend. We've got two really cool Kickstarters, loads of news, cool hobby from Justin, a classic indie of the week, and an epic Orktober Tigerwagon from Kromlech that you can win. Look at this beastie. Why wouldn't you want this? This would make the most epic centerpiece to any orc army. If you want to win this, get a comment in down below, like the video, smash that sub button, and get ready because the weekend starts now. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This week, we've got myself, Lloyd, we've got Ben off to some side of me.
Well, to me, he's there.
Justin down below. Justin.
Oh, Tom down below you. Hi, Lloyd. Hi, guys. I returned from exile.
Yeah, haven't seen you for a while. You're going to give us a lowdown on some of your Conquest stuff further on in the show, aren't you?
Yeah. I have been, while I've been away, I have been online retailing like crazy, making sure all the packages go out to everybody. But I have also been working on our Path of Conquest.
Oh, sweet. We're going to look at that a little later in the show. Remember, get your comments in, your subs and your likes to win that flipping Orktober tank. It's amazing. I should totally bring that up again. Like, who doesn't want to win this? Like, have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Well, if you haven't seen it already, we did preview it on the website last week as well. So,
just look at
very,
it.
very awesome tank.
That's East Orkish Panzer.
Yeah, John was quite liking this one, I think. So
that is an epic lump of resin right there.
I do have to wonder how many historical gamers are out there going, no, what did you do to it? No.
No, I believe this won't be available again until next year.
Yeah.
Is it Orktober, literally an Orktober special?
It is.
Yeah, it was in with the big bundle they were doing for Orktober.
Oh my goodness. Right.
You say about historical gamers, I've seen a lot of Orc players saying that there needs to be even more DACA on there. So I'm sure you can find some more guns to strap onto it.
Well, here's the thing about orcs. You can stick whatever you want in the tank and it's still DACA.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome prize. Remember, peeps, get your comments in, get your subs and your likes, smash the buttons for your chance to win that epic tank. Right, gents, let's get stuck into this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
First up, it's Indie of the Week. Oh, yeah.
So this one for this week is First Core, who's also Curti Miniatures as well. That's sort of like a conglomeration of things, and they're the sculptors behind this project as a whole. But they do miniatures. They're set here in the UK. They do miniatures for all sorts of different time periods. So we're going to dive in and have a look at some of those. This kind of comes off the back of what we were talking about in last week's Cult of Games XLBS.
Yes.
So if you missed that, go and check it out.
That's our Sunday show.
It is, yeah. We were talking about the sort of periods that we'd love to play games in. And so this has kind of inspired me to go off and have a look at different people who supply these miniatures and stuff. So, yeah, we'll have a look.
Right, let's see what we've got, chaps. So, straight away, English Civil War's hitting us in the face.
Who would have thought it? Yeah. So one of the big things they actually started doing, I think it was sort of like towards the sort of midpoint of this year, and they started to continue doing it throughout the last couple of months, has been the sort of English Civil War range, which kind of feeds into what I was really interested in. One of the things that the guys at First Core actually do, and it's kind of like one of their mantras, is they try to make things as diverse and interesting as possible within units. So they try and make a lot of sets that will give you a lot of variety within different regiments, which means that you shouldn't see a lot of repeat sculpts and that kind of thing, which is pretty awesome on their part. And also, Lloyd, they have nice painted pictures of things, which is always a plus.
Let's see. Let's give it a test. Let's see.
It's a big image.
I'm done. Oh, that's amazing.
No, but I was particularly drawn by these because they had a really nice definition of different stuff for both parliamentarians and the royalists. All of it's in that lovely metal that you would expect from historical miniatures as well, which is cool. And it's all 28 mil, I should say as well. All of it's 28 mil historical stuff, so it's all to scale, which is really nice. And as I say, one of the things I like about them is just the animation that they get into the miniatures and the sort of diverse characters and stuff that they've got as well. really nice set of just like, normal galloping fellows there as well, which is pretty awesome.
One thing I'd really like to know is for this time period is how strict they were on like uniforms, because if you get these sculpts and maybe you do get some duplicates in, so you're wanting to do a bigger force, can you just paint the clothes a slightly different color to actually change things up a little bit?
Well, it was kind of interesting.
Lots of color here.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting looking at the stuff last week and sort of in the last week or so, sort of thinking about the English Civil War, is that while there was, that kind of classic movie version of the parliamentarians and the Roundheads and then the royalists on the other side with all their pomp and ceremony, there was actually a lot of crossover between the two. And then there was lots of faction breakdowns between counties as well within England. So you could paint things in a whole bunch of different ways and it would make total sense. So if you wanted to go with your parliamentarians or roundheads having slightly different coloured sashes and cloaks and coats and surcoats and that kind of thing, then you could easily do that and get away with sort of changing up some of the repeat sculpts, as you say. So
it's funny. They just look like a load of Guy Fawkes on horseback to me.
We found out that was later, remember? So.
Yeah.
Or was it before? Oh God, I've ruined it.
Oh gosh, we've murdered history again.
We tend to do that quite a lot. Yeah.
Oh, let's have a look at these, the big sets then.
Yeah.
Particularly you want to look at here, Ben? Or
just scroll through and see what you think. Yeah. But yeah, I think one of the cool things about these is generally just the depth of like content they have. Like I was looking at a whole bunch of other sites and there's some really nice stuff out there from the Perry twins. There's some really nice bits and pieces from a company called Bicorn Miniatures, which we may look at in the future for an Indie of the Week. But when I saw this stuff, I really liked that there was a nice diverse collection with lots of sort of variety within the different packs and stuff. And it all sort of felt with it that it would all fit together really nicely because it gave you sort of like a blanket approach to the period. So it provided you basically with everything you needed to build, either a parliamentarian or a royalist force, which was really cool. So
if you wanted a good game system to run these with, you could run them with a bit of sharp practice and it would work really well.
Well, I think sharp practice is slightly more Napoleonic, I think. But there's one called Pikeman's Lament, which is meant to be really good from Osprey, which is very good. So, but yeah.
Well,
but
I mean, for sharp practice, I know they'll do up to the War of American Independence.
They do, yeah. So I think some people did actually mention it as another option for me to try as well. So yeah, I'll have to have a look at them all and see what I think. So, but yeah.
We're only scratching the surface here. This site, we're never going to get through it all.
Oh, there's depth there.
It's just too much.
I want to see what sci-fi they've done, just for curiosity.
Should we click the sci-fi button now? See what happens. Oh, very strange.
Aliens.
Oh, hang on. Starship Troopers, yes.
25mm scale miniatures inspired by Hollywood. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, it's like Starship Troopers and sort of like weird, like sci-fi troopers.
I'm digging this. I'm definitely digging this. I wouldn't mind getting a go at painting some of those.
Oh, those are actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get
I like the masks on them there as well. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm trying to get you a painted one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, small image.
Oh, that's very trooper looking there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I love that they've gone for big head mode as well.
It's actually funny to see how often the armor from those movies was used in like other TV shows and stuff.
Yeah,
like, I think it even turned up in Firefly during the train robbery.
It did. Yeah.
Get away!
It did. Yeah. It was some of the best generic sci-fi armor you have ever seen.
Yeah.
That's
for a damn good movie as well.
Well, the first one, the other two, and the animated series.
Others very good. Yeah.
I thought there was like 3 or 4 by now, and they're awful.
Well, there were 3 movies. The first one was good, and you also had Rico's Roughnecks. I think it was the like bad CGI cartoon they did.
About no CGI.
I think they'll probably end up bringing it back, at this point. But
yeah.
Right. Well, that's your space stuff.
Yeah. That Neil Patrick Harris in a movie is just great.
Now, in the XLBS last week, like we've mentioned, so Ben, you were very much into the whole English Civil War. Jay's not here, but we'll have a look at the Chinese anyway, because he was talking about doing Chinese wargaming. So we were talking about periods in time that we wish we could play more of or get into.
Yeah, I remember years ago, like, didn't you want to do like a samurai army at one point?
Shh, we've already mentioned that.
We brought it up and how he hasn't actually done anything with it yet.
But you brought it up for the backstagers. Now the world knows.
Well,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
But check out the Chinese.
Mm.
This is
Oh, it
awesome.
is cool. Yeah.
See, the Chinese are really interesting because if you ever watch like documentaries and stuff on the Terracotta Army, it actually goes into like a real nice depth of just how the army was formed, and that they were like one of the first fully regimented armies where every soldier was given like a standardized equipment. I mean, like the pike type weapon they have there, you know, there are still examples of that they've pulled out of there.
This one.
Yes.
What is that? That's 118 quid for the entire army. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Let's see if we can get some of their cavalry. Look at that. The thing about the Chinese is just the sheer amount of epic wars and stuff that you could have. We would talk more about that. Go and check out last Sunday's show, for goodness sakes. I'm not going to repeat it all again. But the Chinese look amazing.
They do.
Chinese are cool.
And it's one of those things that's quite good about what First Corp have done here as well, is that like you don't tend to see people making armies to fit this period, and yet they've gone through and done something like this all in metal and stuff, which is pretty cool. It's the kind of thing that you'd assume War Games Atlantic are probably going to do in the future. They're going to be like, what's that period that no one's playing or doing anything about? Let's make something for that. So.
See, it's something I find with a lot of companies that are doing historical miniatures. They will focus on the periods of history that they love. So some of the more obscure periods of history, because there's not as much information out there about it, it's a lot harder to find it, because the people who are super passionate about it, who might make miniatures, it's not there for them.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I know you can get the Mongols as well. It was great.
Mongolians?
Yeah.
So sorry, I went South Park for a second.
So then you can do like Chinese versus the Mongols.
Yeah. It's a classic clash.
Is that Genghis Khan?
I have no idea.
Genghis Khan there?
I have no idea. We're going to need a Marco Polo as well.
That TV show was actually quite good.
It was. I wish it was in season 2. This is Marco Polo on Netflix. We're talking about peeps.
Yeah, they actually did a movie on Netflix for it, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, did they?
Yep. What was it? Thousand Eyes? You know, the blind swordsman?
Yeah.
I think it was focused on him.
Oh, I thought they cancelled that.
No, I saw it on Netflix. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to have to go check that out. Yeah, so you've got the Mongols.
Yeah. Now you see, you know what you could do, Ben? You could get this army and get a bunch of Stargate SG-1 miniatures.
You
could play them against each other.
You could. The thing I liked about this as well is that it kind of reignited that idea of me wanting to do something to do, sort of drawing on sort of Dynasty Warriors and that kind of thing as well. So I'd still love to see that on the tabletop. A lot of people commented on it last week saying that would be a cool idea. So it strays away from history, obviously, but it would be very cool to see it done.
Well, there's always history, and then there's Hollywood history. It depends what you want to play. Yeah. Me, I always play Hollywood history just because it means I feel less stressed. What's wrong with that?
It means you can do what I did, and you can paint your Panther tank grey rather than yellow, and annoy people. That's the.
I remember playing Bolt Action with John. He picked out a specific Irish regiment, did all the unit markings perfectly. My Germans, they were from Watch on the Rhine, and they were grey. And they weren't bare plastic. I did paint them.
That's good then. That's good.
That is good.
Yeah.
But how far back do they go with their ancients, Lloyd?
They have pretty much everything in their ancients range. I think they cover most of the sort of main armies that you'd want to sort of try.
Yeah, they do Chinese buildings.
They do.
Where?
Yeah. There's also, if you go down to the bottom on the left, there's some sort of terrain options for what they do. Yeah.
That I got to see.
Oh, nice. City walls.
Yeah.
So you can actually build the Great Wall and do that awesome documentary that Warren was talking about with Matt Damon and stuff. Yeah, that'd be good.
What was it, 7 years in Tibet?
No, I think it was.
No, that was Brad Pitt.
Was it not just called The Wall?
It was just called the Great Wall. Yeah.
The Great Wall, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with those big dragons
that
they had. Yeah,
I know the one. Dear Lord, that was such a crap fest.
It isn't a crap fest. You could totally reenact it. You just get this stuff here. You eat a load of lollies to get the lollipop sticks, and then you could put minis and attach them onto strings, and then flick them off the lollipop sticks, and hey presto, you've recreated the entire movie.
Yeah.
And suddenly wargaming becomes a kinetic minigame.
Yeah. Absolutely. But what's interesting me on here is, again, picking up from last week, I noticed that in the medieval stuff, I was talking about I want to play more 13th, 14th century stuff.
Yeah.
Specifically in around the Wars of Scottish Independence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as much as I haven't really seen stuff for the Scottish sort of side of things, I did spot these Lion Rampant retinues here.
Mm.
Oh, what do you see these, Justin?
What is this, like full armies again, or like just big block units?
So these are like full starter armies for you to get started in Lion Rampant, which is pretty cool.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
I mean, the cavalry look badass.
they do.
Don't they just?
I'm digging those.
Yeah.
So for me, this would be a great way of getting into that sort of game. I think there's one in here with a super big picture somewhere. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Oh,
Okay, now
Oh!
here's
Oh!
something very interesting with their
Amazing.
sculpting.
yeah.
They're not using a cookie cutter sort of human body sizing, because I see fat people and skinny people mixed in there, which is
Oh,
kind of cool.
that's true. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Although
It's where-
clearly all the knights should be fatter than the peasants.
that would be the right way around to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got really drawn in by this range
Mm.
here. They've also got like that's just because I'm interested in that whole
Mm.
13th, 14th century sort of internal British sort of wars. Obviously, you can fight the French as well in that period of time. What is it? The 100 Years' Wars kicking in and around that time.
100 Years Wars around then as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
So plenty of stuff to do there.
So when we were asking like what periods you want to play, I guess this ties in with the fact that I like playing men in armor and stuff, and you know,
Yeah.
I like playing Saga, and then I like the idea of going into Lion Rampant for
Mhm.
the medievals and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So this is right up my street.
Yeah.
This stuff here, and the painting techniques would be much the same. You know, the same sort of colors and the style that I develop will migrate over really well, rather than saying, "Oh well, I've been used to paint a lot of historical minis for Saga. Now I'm going to go off and paint, you know, sci-fi stuff." I can just take what I've been doing. Oh, I know how to paint this. I know how to paint
Yeah.
this padded stuff. I
Yeah.
know how to paint this armor. I know how to paint that. And just
I-
jump in and do it.
Hang on. This guy on the second from the left.
Yeah.
Look at his facial expression. It's just like, oh, it's gonna break. It's gonna break.
I'm more interested in the guy on the far left who's clearly been given a helmet that's about 2 sizes too small for him.
This dude here.
Yeah.
No, you see, the other guy's his is too big, so they've probably mixed them up.
Yeah.
That's just his hair. That's just his lockdown hair. Like, look at the amount of hair I've got. Look at that. It's
Oh my
ridiculous.
god.
That makes his hat look too big. Look at my mullet. I'm totally working
Oh.
it. Can you see it?
No, and I'm happy I can't.
The thing I quite like about a lot of the stuff you're seeing here as well from these guys is that it's coming in around that kind of 1 to maybe as much as maybe only 3-part models. So there's not a lot of, you know, building work you need to do in order to get these right. In a lot of the cases, it's just about sticking on the hands and weapons, and then they're
Yeah.
pretty much ready to go, which
Like
I think is
this-
pretty good for building bigger
There's
armies.
4 bits to these. You've got your rider, your horse, your shield, and your spear.
Yeah, although be careful of those spears, because those look like the brass rod pointy ones that could stab you
Yeah.
very badly.
They're really bad on the hands and the eyeballs. Watch the eyeballs, but thankfully I wear glasses.
Yeah, protecting. I've not got
Safety
mine on.
first,
but
Lloydie.
It's all good. Yeah, so that's what interests me. I'm really getting drawn into that. And then look, you got samurai, you've got steppe tribes, you've got Mongols again in all these sets that they've put together.
Mhm.
That if you're into Lion Rampant, you can just come in and just get stuck
They
in.
have early Teutonics.
Yeah.
Default.
Oh well, they've got a whole thing going on for Crusade type stuff as well,
Yeah. See, John might dig those.
Those are really cool. I like those.
Yeah.
aren't they? Just
Yeah.
Mongols. So anybody's into Saga,
Oh, on the little
rock into
ponies.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, the horses are so much smaller. That's a really nice feature that they thought.
Step ponies. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. What was it? Sherlock Holmes said they're dangerous at both ends and tricky in the middle.
Let's see. Saga. Here we go. Crescent and the Cross.
Yeah.
Where do you see what's in here? Oh, we've got late 13th century and slightly earlier stuff. Now it's the earlier stuff that I'm doing 12th sort of centuries where I am. Hold on, I have too many windows. 12th sort of centuries where I'm floating around in my Saga sort of thing with the Russ. But then I'm trying to move into 13th,
Yeah.
14th century then for the other stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
That is.
And is that decals with it?
Or
Or is that his?
flags and transfer sheets are available here.
I think they
Okay.
a lot of them they do through Little Big Men and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's pretty cool.
I'm trying to find you with Crusades. Did anybody see this Crusades on here?
If you go to medieval,
medieval, probably.
Yeah.
Where am I? Oh, I'm in the wrong one. That's why. Well, Teutonic Knights. Here we go. And then there's medieval.
Yeah.
up
So you
there.
got your Teutonic Knights, where you're just slightly more Eastern knights and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, what I
Nice.
like about these is you can do the Northern Crusades with them. That really ties in with the whole Rust thing that I've been doing, because I could feel because I have my guys being done with the detachable shields. I could field them as Rust to fight these guys, or I could do them as like the Polish to fight against these guys.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the transfer sheets look really good for those, because you see, trying to do all those straight lines would just drive me batty. So having a transfer set that's just going to take that pain away from you, sweet.
Yeah, absolutely sweet.
Is this why it takes you about 4 years to make an army then? Lloyd?
6 years. 6 years.
6, yeah.
I'm thinking it'll be another 2 years before I finish.
Oh, it's like, okay. I see.
That and distractions. Oh,
Yeah,
20th
that
century.
and work.
Yeah.
Oh, they do some moderns.
Yeah.
They do, yeah.
Well,
You've got those. Look, click on this 20th Century Follies at the top, because look, they're familiar people. They're familiar characters.
I swear it's not Tintin.
It's Tintin. Yeah.
It's not Tintin. No, it's not Tintin. Do not say it's Tintin. They might get sued. Oh my God, the facial expression.
I love those. They're so weird.
That's horrifying. That is absolutely horrifying.
I love it because if someone rocked up with Tintin, I'd finally get to kill him.
Wow.
Oh, flipping Tintin. So annoying.
So much hate.
He's so smug.
Yeah, for good reason.
The dog did all the work. He took all the credit.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Good old Snowy. Yeah.
What else have they got there?
They got the Mad Muller. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're going to go for this. See what we got here.
A couple of troublemakers in the saloon car.
Well, it's meant to be Bonnie and
To
Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde, yeah.
The car is cool.
Yeah.
What else have they got?
If you've got like villains, you've got Boy Scouts and leaders, policemen and hounds as well. Oh, they do the dragsters. Oh, because there's a car game that I can't remember what it's called now, where you basically drive around in those kind of classic old automobiles with like guns attached to them, and it's meant to be like a really fun little game to play. So I think they did them for that.
If it's not called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, they've missed a trick there.
And coming to Kickstarter soon.
Very good.
Oh, I like that one.
Although if I write it, it would be Shitty Shitty Bang Bang. They're really cool.
Yeah.
These are awesome. Yeah.
You could totally drive over Tintin using these.
God, all this Tintin hate.
I don't like Tintin. He's too smug. I said it before. I'll say it again.
No, hang on. Who did a reverse reliant Robin with a third wheel on the back? That's weird looking.
That's the way they were.
That's weird looking.
Yeah. So that's really interesting stuff too. Surprisingly, do they don't do World War II on here?
I saw
they
World
do
War
a few World War II stuff, two bits and
World
pieces.
War One.
Yeah. If you scroll back up to the top again.
Swamp Boat.
Wait.
Swamp Boat.
Swamp Boat has to be looked at. Oh,
Yeah.
and this has to be looked at.
Abbott the motorcycle.
And that has to be looked at. Look at this.
Is this where we go down into the rabbit hole now? Yeah, it is.
Oh no! I want like 3 of those to do like some hillbilly swamp racing.
Oh, that's
That would be
amazing.
cool.
Yeah. You know, if you screw up your turn, you maybe get chucked off into a gator's mouth.
This is really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that I quite liked about these guys is that they don't just do the armies; they've done kind of the stuff that sort of sits around it. There's another link which maybe we'll look at in a little bit. Which has
He's got a machine gun on that.
Yeah. Why have a motorcycle if you can't have badass guns? There you go, World War II.
Clearly, you need 2 because if you're on it and it's out to one side, you're just going to sit spinning as it fires in the recoil.
That's how you turn. Yeah, you fire the guns to turn.
We'll come to World War II in a minute, but they've got the Great War as well.
Yeah. And World War One's one of those ranges that's never really fleshed out as well, which is cool to see.
Oh my goodness, these guys have fleshed it out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And again, you don't really often see. I was going to say you don't really often see the armor from World War One either. So
I see armor in World One. It was really, really spread out. There was, I think, only a few engagements where they massed vehicles and put them together.
I don't know. So, like there were like 300 tanks going out for the British and stuff like that. So there was some big mass engagements.
Towards the end of the war, yeah.
Yeah, but I think whenever they first came into service, the doctrine was that they were basically spread out along the trench line and sent across. Now, I remember John telling me about one of the first tank-on-tank engagements. You know, both crews did not know what the hell they were doing. Until one of them figured out, actually, I should stop, fire,
I
move,
don't believe
fire,
that
move.
for a minute. Surely someone said to them, right, you drive over there and you kill those guys. That's pretty much what they were doing.
Yeah, but to actually learn how to use the vehicle to fight.
Yeah.
This is so cool. If you're into blood and valor, here's where to get each other. And you want some scenery bits and stuff to fight in around.
This is one of the things I quite like about the World War One stuff, is that in many cases, World War One vehicles look more weird World War than World War Two stuff. It's really weird because it's all sort of been like cobbled together, and they've used, you know, standard automobiles and that kind of thing to just sort of bash armor onto and stick guns on and things. So.
Yeah, they look like Dad's Army's bathtub once removed.
No, it's a very cool idea.
Yeah.
That is so cool. If you've been into, what is it, the shoot 'em up game that came out, the first party or the first person shooter, what was it?
Battlefield 1?
Battlefield 1. If you've been looking for a way to recreate that on the tabletop, here you go. This is the range for you.
Yeah.
That's flipping.
I actually haven't played that yet.
Right.
I like the fact that they do vehicle parts, because if you want to just do some like rack markers and stuff.
Well, two wheels.
Two wheels. Never mind.
Isn't that?
If you want to do a pile of wheels, you could.
Or you could stick wheels on like a bathtub.
Yeah.
Japanese,
we can make the dream a reality.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see what we've got. Oh, that's pretty well fleshed out. We've got Germans. You want to look at the German squad packs? Here you go.
Yep, those look pretty good.
Yeah, and again, these are kind of coming in at that kind of old school 28 mil. So it's that slightly smaller scale than you probably would be used to for seeing things like bolt action and stuff. But they're the kind of scale that will probably work across the board for a lot of the other metal manufacturers out there. So pretty good stuff.
Oh, I like the smoke marker.
Fallschirmjäger.
You always call out stuff I haven't clicked, for goodness sakes.
That's because you're moving too fast. Now I know how Jerry feels.
A smoke marker.
It's not an Indie of the Week segment unless someone complains about where Lloyd's clicking and what he's doing. So.
So that's became a thing now? Okay.
Yeah. You can keep going. Keep going.
That's fine. You can do it next week, Ben. You can do it. Oh. Yeah, so really cool stuff.
There's actually a link for the World War II things that I wanted to show that should be in the show notes towards the bottom, actually.
Civilians?
Yes, civilians and sort of like folk who have been displaced by war. So this is one of their newer sets that they've done. So it's a set of like people who have been sort of shipped out of their countryside homes and that kind of thing and been ousted by invaders and that kind of stuff. So if you're looking for kind of civilians to help bulk up a scenario or something you're playing on the tabletop, and you've got some pretty good ideas to mess around with there. You've got some defectors and collaborators too, which is pretty cool. So
yeah,
you can actually, like, one of the big things we talked about on a weekend not too long ago was the idea of playing things to do with like partisan troops or French resistance and stuff. And so you could include these within that kind of sphere and use them as sort of like characters in those sort of scenarios.
I think the car with the stowage, all this stuff, they've just stuck on the top. Is a nice touch.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, although cool. You know what it would be really cool to use these for? 7 TV.
You could, yeah, that would be really good for that, actually. Yeah.
You know, you could do like, a refugee like episode for 7 TV where they're all trying to get away. You know, there's maybe a spy in amongst them that's trying to be captured by the opposing force.
That would be cool, actually. Yeah.
7 TV is a rule set for doing. What would you? It's like 1970s,
it's like cheesy 70s TV shows. Yeah. Like cheesy 70s TV shows that you convert into like a tabletop game.
Yeah.
Right. Ancients, and I think we'll have to call it quits because there's just too much to look at.
Yeah, we said we wouldn't get through it all, but we kind of went down the rabbit hole. Hey, they do livestock.
They do.
That'll make Warren happy.
I think it's a good idea to click on elephants.
Which one?
or Macedonian successors. Elephants, either would be fine. But yeah, as I say, they do kind of like cover the bases when it comes to those standard ancient forces. So you've got things like Macedonians, Greeks, Romans, Celts, and that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. Oh man, that is a cool looking.
Oh,
Them is some big pikes in the phalanx.
Wow.
He's digging
Ptolemaic Egyptians, very cool. Yeah.
That's sweet stuff.
And this
then.
is another one of their army deals.
Mhm.
Yes, that's a big bundle. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, sets of bundles of something.
Yeah.
Army deal. Because as much as I just click that, it's one picture, but it includes
All of that,
sort
yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah. So you can go back through their catalog and see what else is in there, which is pretty cool. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll hunt around and see what we got.
That, and there seems to be a sale on at the minute, so might be the time to go and grab some.
Might be. Carthaginians.
Yeah, but we know you're kit bashing your own Carthaginians, Lloyd.
Well, I'm using the Vitrix ones at the minute for Clash of Spears that
Yeah.
Jerry very kindly gave me.
The
elephants.
elephants are cool.
I do love a good big elephant in your battles. You need more of those in your ancient warfare.
Yeah. I like the one with its foot up, ready to stomp on somebody.
Mm.
You just need to put somebody onto the base, just...
Tintin. That's who needs
Wow.
to be rare right now.
We'll have to subtitle this episode the Tintin hate episode. That'll be
I don't know. I think I would stick Indiana Jones below there. I think it would look cooler.
Yeah.
that would make sense as well. So. Oh,
Massive
ancient
ball.
Indians. So that's what Jerry was interested in.
Yes, he
That's
was
cool.
interested in it as well.
Yeah.
He's trying to decide. Yeah, last weekend, was it sort of the Indian continent or was it China that he was more interested in? I think he went with. Who did he go with in the end? Was it India?
I think he was thinking about ancient Indians because he was talking about the clashes between Alexander the Great and the Indians when he extended his empire out towards the east. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is him sorted.
Yeah, those are very cool.
I'm gonna have to come back here and check this out after the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
although I'm wondering why is in the bottom left there, why is one of them carrying the Southern Irish flag?
Where are we going?
Just
I think I know where I'm going.
there.
That's because that's their flag.
That's the tricolor. Just on its side.
Sure.
And also the wrong. Yeah, but
I know. I'm just joking.
Hey,
here.
well, you never know.
Is that
You're
Tintin killer painted?
Ireland twinned with India. That's the right way to go. Yeah. No, but this was the thing that was interesting because I was wondering because obviously they did all the Carthaginian and Macedonian elephants, but I wondered if they had variants to do them as Indian ones as well because obviously they're different,
Yeah.
in style and look and that kind of thing. So
Chariots
that's pretty
are
cool.
very-
They've got them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, I'm so flipping interested in this now. Because it's one thing talking about it, and it's another thing to see stuff.
Yeah.
That you can actually lay your hands to.
Yeah, and you can visualize how cool is this going to look.
It's one of the things that was really interesting when it came to the whole English Civil War stuff that we looked at when we first started delving into this site. Like actually having to then visualize how an army would look and then being like, okay, so that's how much money we'd have to spend to do that, etc., etc. It kind of invigorates a project when you're like, that's doable, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Absolutely amazing stuff. Right, chappies? Well, I'll give you one more glance at the menu. Look at that. Look at the amount of
it's just
stuff.
chock full.
This, if you're into minis in any form, this you have to come here and have a look around
Yeah.
because this is it's just an insane amount of stuff.
Yeah.
And as I say, they've been around for a really long time. So if you're interested in picking some stuff up that's, as you say, historically focused, as well as some sci-fi as well, then there's plenty to get your teeth stuck into with First Core. So yeah.
Absolutely. What was it? Firstcore.co.uk, was it?
Yep, that's the one. Yeah.
Perfect. Right, chappies. Let's get stuck into the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So we're diving into the news, starting off with some Games Workshop stuff to begin with.
Yay.
There was some new sort of previews that came out over the weekend for what's going to be coming up for pre-order this coming weekend. So tomorrow, when you're seeing it.
Swing!
Yeah, we
You know where you can get that stuff? You can get it stored on tabletop.com. Shall
Yes, you can.
Buy
Yeah.
merch.
So the new codex options are 2 new supplements. One of them is for the Space Wolves. So the Wolves of Fenris have returned, and the other one is for the Death Watch, which you can see there as well. So if you want to play as the badass space Vikings of the 41st millennium, then you can do so. Or if you want to play as the conglomerated Death Watch, which comes from all different types of factions, sorry, not factions, but chapters, then you can also do that too. There's going to be both this basic standard version of the Codex supplement, which you can see here, and then there's also going to be a full art version of it as well, if you want to spend a little bit extra moolah.
Space Wolves all the way. And Ben,
Space
you should
Wolves are
play
amazing.
Space Wolves. Just before we hit record again there, fellas, we were discussing Ben's beard and how to make it longer because you were complaining you couldn't grow your beard long enough to be a Space Wolf.
Yeah, I can't be a true Viking or space Viking, unfortunately.
If anybody's got any tips for Ben so he can get his beard down to here to tie it up in little ponytails and stuff. Amazing. My suggestion was weights, but we don't think that'll necessarily work.
No.
Now, I am excited to see what happens with the Space Wolves in this edition because now they actually have the chance to actually become a good close combat army.
Right.
The previous
You mean a good
edition
close combat army? They're always kicking ass in combat, were they not?
The problem is the previous edition with Overwatch, everybody could Overwatch whenever you were on the way in, so you would just take a hammering as you were coming in. Now that Overwatch is basically something that you have to trigger, and if I remember right, and my own interpretation is right, you can only do it like once unless it's a special rule that's letting you do it. Getting into combat is a lot easier now.
Fair enough. Yeah. One of the other cool things I'd seen with this lot as well is that there seems to be like a real focus on them sort of making it a lot more accessible to dive in and play as these different chapters. So one of the things they've done in addition to the supplements that they've got for this is they've also designed 2 new combat patrol starter sets. So they're not your traditional sort of start collecting boxes. These ones are combat patrols, which I believe give you a fully legal army to effectively play out of the box, which sounds pretty good to me. I'm sure Justin can confirm or deny whether or not it looks like that. But they certainly seem like a pretty interesting way to sort of dive in and start playing as both of the different factions that are available right now. So,
But these 2 are more interesting than Space Wolves because of the big walking beastie.
Oh yeah. The Invictor Tactical Warsuit is an absolutely horrendous thing to have to deal with, especially because it's got advanced deployment. You can put a massive like heavy flame weapon on it and just have it at the start of the game instantly ready to walk around the corner and go, "Oh, hello, barbecue."
Wow, that's cool. Kind of works with the whole Space Wolf vibe as well, though. It's kind of like infiltrators and raiders. That's pretty awesome.
Well, if you always imagine Space Wolves to be a nice, like, mobile tactical unit. I am digging the fact that the Death Guard are getting some aggressors in there.
Yeah, the Death Watch stuff looks pretty awesome. And one of the things one of the things that I really like about Death Watch as a whole is that thing that I was alluding to earlier, where they're actually drawn from different chapters that all go to serve as part of the Death Watch, taking on Xenos threats and that kind of thing. So there's a real ability for you to not only play around with, a fairly basic paint scheme, but then do a little bit of sort of iconography work and sort of adding in accessories and that kind of thing to make each of the Marines feel like they've come from the Salamanders or the Imperial Fists or the Ultramarines or the Space Wolves, etc. So it's pretty cool.
Now, I do have a gripe for the Death Watch. Now, this is old rules. I don't know what the current ones are like. The level of customization that you have within units is far, 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 far too high.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
It slows down gameplay. Say you have a 10-man unit and each of the 10 guys has a different weapon loadout.
Yeah.
Working out your dice rolls for that is torturous to me.
I can imagine, actually.
It's why I don't like the Repulsor. There's too many different weapon types on there that you're having to roll separately.
Yeah. That thing of where having too much choice kind of ruins it, kind of thing.
It slows your gameplay down. So anybody building this kind of unit, try and build it with a bit of consistency. It'll increase the speed of your gameplay and actually make your games more fun.
It's one of the things, maybe if you were looking at maybe doing something to do with the Death Watch, instead of using them as an entirely like a full fighting force, maybe using them as in something like Kill Team, for example, instead, where that kind of nuance and depth to them would be a pretty good idea. So.
Yeah, it's a pretty good asset in that setting. But I mean, like, even if you were using these guys as like an additional detachment to your main force, is the way I would play them.
Right. Yeah.
So you would have, say, your main Space Wolf force, and they're bringing along some Death Watch with them for a bit of inquisitorial support.
That would be cool.
Adds a little bit of narrative flavor in there.
So yeah, as well as the Combat Patrol start sets and those 2 new Codex supplements you can pick up, they're also doing some releases of some individual packs as well. So Ragnar Blackmane and Gazgul Thraka are going to be available separately now. They were already available as part of a box set
Saga of the
earlier in
Beast.
year. Yeah, Saga of the Beast, that's the one, yeah. So yeah, you can now pick up Ragnar Blackmane, which is a pretty good option considering the Space Wolves are getting this new book and everything like that. And then you've also got Gazgul Thraka and his little comrade in arms as well from that same set as well. And this is Games Workshop's sort of like Orktober thing, was the release of an old model. But there you go.
Oh, what
all these other companies doing amazing things for October, and Games Workshop didn't do anything. But there you go.
what was the old model they released?
Well, this is they're re-releasing Gazgul. That's what I'm saying. Like, so
Oh, right.
Gazgul was available, and he's available again in October. Wow, cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
But
Yeah,
he's cool.
I can see.
I mean, he is
He
cool.
And
Yeah,
he
awesome.
is super chunky. If you stack him up against someone like Gulliman, he's going to look properly scaled.
Yeah.
I just wish Workshop would go back and resculpt the original Orc Boys box, because it's looking really dated now compared
Very
to some of the
true.
newer sculpts.
Yeah.
Because if you look at any of the like buggies and stuff that they did, you know,
Mhm.
the recent ones, whenever they did that
Speed
box
Freaks.
game,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they brought them out individually, the orcs inside that look so different to the old school Orc Boys. I think they need an update.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see that happen. I mean, they're going to be sort of stepping into more 40k stuff towards the end of this
but
year and into
It
next
would have been
one, so-
perfect to release for Orktober.
Oh, it would have been. Yes, it definitely would have been.
Take notes, Workshop.
Yeah. The other stuff that they've got coming out
Do you
is...
know what else would have been cool?
Oh, yeah.
A big Panzer tank.
Just
done
like
in
the one
orc
from
styling.
Cromlech.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Especially if you could win one with a comment, sub, and a smashing the like button. That would be
Yeah.
even more amazing.
Yeah, and don't forget to ding our dong.
That's it.
So, in addition to the re-release of Ragnar and Gazgul, you've also got a set of the Outrider Primaris Space Marines. So, if you want to include Primaris bikers in your army,
Yeah,
you can now do that.
yeah, I love the design of these miniatures.
Yeah, I think they're really cool as well. You know,
Yeah,
like
the models
effectively-
themselves are a little bit tricky to put together if you haven't done them before, but
Oh,
take your
okay.
time, you'll be fine.
Fair enough. But yeah, so they're on the way. Effectively, big old rolling battering rams for you to include in your army. Pretty
yeah.
awesome looking sculpts there. And you're also very good for those people that want to try and theme their force around things like the white scars and that kind of thing, which is pretty good.
I am just waiting to see like some orcified version of these for warbikers.
That would be very cool. Yeah, that would be awesome. To the same sort of size and heft as well. That would be the best way to go with that. That'd be
Oh
really
no,
cool.
no, I mean like somebody out there just buy a set of these and kit bash the hell out of them to make them
Oh,
orky.
oh yeah, no, that would be really good to see actually.
Yeah.
because orcs make use of everything, don't they? So that would be good.
There is nothing that can't be looted. I have seen looted Tyranids.
Yes.
You know, how do I make this thing go? 2 spikes in the brain.
if I could lose the exhausts, I'm not a
You
big
don't like
fan
the
of.
exhausts?
No, I don't like the exhaust. I think that's overkill.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the way these are designed, you couldn't really take them off.
It's molded on. I'd have to cut them off.
Mm.
I would assume they're molded on.
Well, the way it actually goes together, so the body is actually like 2 layers.
Yeah.
So you've got the lower layer and then the upper layer, and what the upper layer has is, you see the outer cowling that's holding the bolt rifles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it comes down across that, does the foot pedals, and then goes out to the exhausts.
So
Right.
this isn't two
If I
halves.
remember the breakdown
Ah.
properly, it's been a while since I built one of these.
Well, that's cool. That means you don't have a big seam running up the middle of your.
True.
Your
You
bike.
actually do have a massive seam running up the middle of
Where?
your bikes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the lower part is in 2 halves and the outer part
Oh,
is
I
in 2
see.
halves.
I see. But there's the wheels.
The
One
wheels
thing.
come in 2 halves as well.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're gonna have an awful seam that you need fix.
If you're not great at building them, if you don't clean them up right before you build them.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so as well as those releases for the Primaris Space Marines, they've also said that there's going to be a re-release of the classic and amazing Blood Quest, which is going to be re-released as a colorized version, a bit like what we saw for Demonifuge earlier in the year. So this is going to be the first half of that story. However, I didn't even need to buy that because I have my copy
You have the original.
right here. So I have it here, all in graphic novel
Oh.
film in black and white. Oh, sexy,
Oh,
sexy, sexy.
yes.
I don't know. I like colorized graphic novels.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be very, very nice. But I was like, oh, hold on, it's only volume 1. I have everything here. But no, if you have missed out on Blood Quest, this is one of the books out there that definitely made me think, I really want to make a Blood Angels army. So it's one of those really good books. That.
So you want to be a space vampire?
I want to be a space vampire. Yeah. So we're going to move on from the grim dark of the far future, and we're instead going to go to a time far, far away. A time long ago, far, far away. Man, I messed that up. But anyway, we're
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. So we're going to be
Well,
talking.
let's be honest, you didn't mess it up as much as Disney did, so you're all right.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because Mandalorian season 2 is about to drop.
It's today, in fact,
Is
when
it?
we're seeing this. So,
Yes!
yeah.
What are we doing filming this malarkey for then?
We should be going to do Mandalorian, yeah.
I want to see Baby Yoda.
Yeah. So,
Baby
guys at
Yoda,
Fantasy-
yeah. Stamped
guys
by a
at-
big elephant along with Tintin. That'd be amazing.
What? Baby Yoda will force choke you, Lloyd.
So, Fantasy Flight Games have announced that there's a couple of new things coming our way. The first of which is a limited edition Luke Skywalker miniature, which will be available in sort of November, December time for independent stockists. There's no word as to how many of these will actually be included within orders and that kind of thing. And it is available throughout the US, and they will be available throughout the rest of the world as well. Again, plans are sort of loose in that regard.
I
But
love
this-
the fact that it's called a limited edition.
Yes.
Everything in Star Wars Legion is
Yes, very true. But this set comes with...
had to be said. Had to be said.
It does so, yeah. I mean, Jerry's not here to do it for us, but yeah, so this set comes with a couple of different variants for you to make Luke Skywalker based on the version of him from Empire Strikes Back and the Battle of Hoth. So you've got the version of him with his blaster pistol there. You can have the helmet on with the visor up or down, and then there's also the lightsaber version too, which is pretty awesome. Comes on a sculpted base as well, so that's the kind of like big awesome addition to that one too. The cards and stuff that come in the set are exactly the same rules-wise as the ones that come in the core box, so there's no changes there. The only sort of changes that they've made to the cards is that they come with updated artwork on them to match the miniature. So it's the version of Luke from, as we were saying there, the Battle of Hoth. And the same goes for the command cards as well. The upgrade cards and stuff are just reprints of the original ones from the core set, so you won't have anything to worry about in that case either, which is very cool.
Yeah. The artwork's quite nice.
The artwork's really nice. I like the style of the sculpt. I really like that they've added a whole bunch of different options in there too. It's something that we've been seeing with a lot more of the new Star Wars Legion stuff, and we'll go into that in a little bit later as well. But yeah, it's really nice to see lots of options in there so that people may have different variants of Luke on the table, which is pretty cool. So yeah, awesome stuff.
Let's see, if I was going to dive in as a personal force for Star Wars, I would probably go for a clone army. I just like the look of them.
Yeah. Well, the clones are very, very cool. And that leads us quite neatly onto the next little bit of news. So we have seen these as previews back in the annals of time that was early 2020. And this is a little bit sort of more detail about both Anakin and Darth Maul, or just Maul to his friends, if you prefer, for the world of Star Wars, and back in the prequel setting. So if you want to lead the way as the Jedi General known as Anakin, then you can do that with a new version of that model, which will be interesting to the game. Padme Amidala obviously exists at the moment as well, so you can have the two of them fighting it out, which is pretty awesome on the tabletop. They've done some really interesting things with the character of Anakin in this, in that he fights like a normal Jedi, so he has all the Jedi stuff, so he can leap around and he has the lightsaber tactics and that kind of thing. But he also has fatal flaws within his character and built into the mechanics too. So he has the ability to access dark side powers, which is pretty cool. So he can do like Force Lightning with Force Choke and that kind of thing. But he also has things that will sort of like hamper him as he gets more powerful in the game. So the more he taps into his dark side, the more that affects him in the game. So he's more powerful, but he's less commanding and that kind of thing, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, a really awesome looking sculpt for that. And I really like the way that they've kind of gone with both the movie look of Anakin, but also tweaked a little bit so that it has a little bit more of that cartoon look to him as well. So it sort of is like a little awesome nod to the Clone Wars TV series, which is very, very cool if you haven't seen it already. Makes Anakin a much more sympathetic character. So,
It's cool, actually. It's a nice mix of the two.
yeah.
And I like the fact that some of his activation cards are giving him some permanence.
Yeah, that's the sort of big sort of bonus to these, that you could kind of play these abilities that will make him just better because he is the chosen one after all. So yeah, as well as Anakin Skywalker, on the other side of things, we also have Darth Maul, who is fighting for the Separatists. So that's the next link on the way. there, Lloyd. So Darth Maul comes in a new set, which has the same amount of options. You don't get to see them in this preview here, but he has the ability to have his double-ended lightsaber out like that, or you can have it in a different sort of configuration as well. So if you want to make him look a little bit more daunting, like when he only had the single blade out, which is pretty cool, you can get that too. He also comes with those Sith probe droids that you can see that a lot of people will remember from the ones from Phantom Menace. They allow him to always have a bead on exactly where things are on the tabletop, and because he's an operative as well, he kind of has a little bit more of sort of like a going off on his own sort of lone wolf style thing to him, which is pretty awesome to use on the tabletop, which is cool. The other, again, Maul is one of those characters that was pretty hard done by when it comes to the films. A lot of people now would say, and I tend to agree with them now, that Maul should have been a cool character to carry on through all of the prequels, which would have been pretty awesome. But the Clone Wars TV show, again, did amazing stuff with Darth Maul and made him into an awesome character, as so did Rebels later on as well.
Well, I would agree with that. I think the prequels would have been so much cooler with Maul.
Yeah.
Going through the lot. I mean, even Disney obviously thinks Maul's a cool character, the way he was brought back in the Clone Wars, and the way he was featured at the end of Solo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people hate. There's a lot of people hate on Solo, but man, I wanted to see where that went.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Being brought back into the movie franchise.
Yeah. I see. For me, I wish that they had stuck to their guns and made Jar Jar a Sith Lord. What? I think it would have been very cool to actually see all of a sudden this goofy character that everyone hates become this dark, sinister creature.
That's it.
Well, it's quite interesting.
He's gonna murder you all.
Exactly. Jar Jar has
killed the Jedi.
Jar Jar actually has some really good episodes in the Clone Wars. Like, I thought I'd get really bummed out by him, but he actually has some very good moments in there. So definitely worth checking out on that front. This kind of leads me into some sort of thinking for what's going to be happening next for Star Wars Legion, because obviously we've seen all this stuff for the Clone Wars and we're seeing them do stuff for the Galactic Republic era as well. But the future holds a lot for Star Wars Legion if Fantasy Flight Games want to stick with it. One of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is maybe offering up some new stuff to do with things like Jedi Generals and that kind of thing. So it'd be nice to see the likes of Mace Windu, Yoda, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and all these other characters brought to the tabletop to give you kind of like the flavor of the Jedi Generals leading their units into battle and that kind of thing, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I if they do, I hope they do it as Samuel L. Jackson.
That would be amazing. Yes,
the only reason he had a purple lightsaber is because he said, "Nope, I just want a purple one," and he's the only Jedi with a purple lightsaber.
Yeah,
I would buy that just to cut his head off to stick it on something else for like 7 TV, so he's in a wee suit. That would be amazing.
What, you gonna trim the top off, put a little trilby on there?
That's it.
Yeah.
I think it's been
picture up or something as well.
That's it. I think it's been some leaks or something.
So when the limited edition Luke Skywalker figure was announced, we also got a little sort of like a little sneaky peek of sort of a bit of news about what's happening in the future as well. So there seems to be sculpts coming out for Lando Calrissian for the kind of Galactic era, which is really, it didn't twig in my brain that they hadn't done Lando yet. Like I was looking at my collection.
Wait, it hasn't twigged in my brain until just now. There is no Lando.
Yeah, because they obviously they've done Leia and Han and Chewie in it, but they didn't do Lando. So Lando's coming.
Important question. What's he wearing?
Well, it's
a stylish cape.
Yeah, it's Cloud.
Okay, so it isn't the part where he stole Han's clothes.
No, it's Cloud. It's Cloud City Lando.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I assume folks can go hunt that one down.
Yes, they can. And on the other side of things, still for the Galactic Rebellion, but for the evil side, or is he? We have Agent Callus from the Clone Wars series. So obviously we've seen Sabine Wren, who was from from Rebels. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. From Rebels. Man, I'm going to get in so much trouble for that. So we've seen Sabine Wren from Rebels, but we're also going to be seeing Agent Callus, who is the Empire's sort of spy as well in the Rebels series. So he's going to be coming to the fore as well, which is pretty cool. I'd love to see him with some alternative outfits. That would be awesome. So he could fight for the Rebels. That would be cool, but it won't happen. So there we go. What are you going to do? But yeah, so if Lando Calrissian and Callus
just pop his head off, pop his head onto like a rebel body.
You could do that, but he still has. Hopefully, he'll have a non-helmeted version, so you can actually do that with his amazing mutton chops. He has brilliant mutton chops for a Star Wars character. It's very cool.
What I get the feeling if we were allowed to go out for Halloween this year, Ben would be out with mutton chops doing Jack the Ripper.
Could do that. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so if they're doing stuff for that and they're sort of tapping the well of the Clone Wars and Rebels and that kind of thing, hopefully we'll see a lot more stuff coming out in the future for Star Wars Legion. Fingers crossed. So we'll see.
Sweet. What are we moving on to now, Ben?
So we're moving on to talk about some fantasy stuff, but we're also staying within the realm of Fantasy Flight Games, as last week, and it came out just as the show basically released on Fridays and that kind of thing. Fantasy Flight Games announced Descent: Legends of the Dark, which is the next interpretation of their Terranoth-based dungeon crawling adventure. Just to be clear, this is not a third edition of Descent. This is a new sort of revamped take on Descent, which uses a couple of sort of important points from second edition, but kind of innovates it on like that. It's a 1 to 4 player cooperative dungeon crawler set in Terranoth, which is their fantasy world.
The miniatures look pretty.
The miniatures are very nice. And it also uses a companion app. And before you turn off, I will go through how the companion app works. So it is needed for the game, unfortunately, for a lot of people, but it does a lot of the kind of number crunching and stuff behind the scenes. You're still going to be rolling dice and that kind of stuff, but as well as handling all the facts of sort of like how the enemies activate and sort of calculating the values of your attacks and how much damage you do, it's also going to be working away in the background to do a lot more extra stuff. One of the things they did say as part of their sort of like talk about the game last week is that they've really revamped the technology behind their apps since doing the stuff for Journeys of Middle-earth to try and make it a lot more fluid and easy to use and actually have sort of like a basis within the world, which is pretty cool. But sorry, what were you saying, Mike?
Is the app somehow tied into these weird colored basic things that I seen?
So the little colored things underneath the bases are what you slot in just to sort of recognize which enemy is which. But the app will tell you which ones you should slot them into and all that kind of thing as well. So
can't find them though.
They've eluded you just like a sneaky rogue. But yeah, so the app is going to be doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's also going to obviously help deal with the complex narrative and the character development that your heroes have as well. One of the things they've done in Descent, and it's sort of a carryover from second edition as well, is that you make a hero, but then as you expand and develop your character, you can go in 2 different paths. So you'll be able to choose different classes for your fighter to go into, so maybe a knight or maybe slightly more of a gladiator style class, which is pretty cool. But then within that, there's also the way that you react and interact with the world. So for example, one of the characters they talked about was the sort of knight fighter character, how she can either be noble or valorous, and the decisions she makes will be influenced by will influence the story going forward, and also will sort of show up in the app as well going in.
This is the app here then. So the app.
Yeah, so that's the app showing you how to lay out the dungeons. And this leads me to some interesting points about this. So all sounds good so far. The character art looks kind of cool. I'm not a massive fan of the rest of the artwork for the sort of graphic design and that kind of thing. I think it looks a little bit like a mobile game in some places, which is really weird.
I was thinking that when I was flicking through this video. Yeah. If I go back, I'm not really digging this. I don't know how to describe it. This current gen artwork, the same sort of stuff that. No, of course I can't find anything. There was a super duper picture in here with all the cards.
Yeah, but it kind of looks like the stuff you'd see on a mobile screen when you're unlocking boxes and that kind of thing, which is a bit weird. But
here we go. Look, this. Yeah, it's too toony for me. It's like all these tabletop games thinking, oh, we must look like computer games.
Yeah.
Read Shadow Legends.
Which is just, it's starting to bug me a bit.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that the game board for it is 2.5D. You've got some nice card terrain elements going in there.
And that's another interesting thing about this. Like, I love the fact that they've put in 2.5D stuff, but I don't like the finish of the tiles. I think they look really boring. Like compared to the look of the tiles from second edition, which had lots of character built into them, these look really generic. And obviously they have to look a little bit generic because they're trying to make it so that it can be modularly used across different quests and that kind of thing. But is that to the detriment of the game?
I don't know what the price point for this is, but stay tuned because later on in the show we're going to look at Core Space, their latest Kickstarter. Yeah. And then you will see card terrain in 2.5D.
Done as a masterpiece.
Well,
with lots of detail.
Yeah, well, now, obviously, one of the things that Justin touched on earlier is that the miniatures for this look amazing. Yeah. And they really do. They've stepped up the mark in terms of the miniatures, and they actually talked about this on their sort of interview, where they said that the miniatures have actually been made using a harder plastic than they've ever used before to get the definition and the detail that you see. Obviously, these are renders, but they showed off a couple of their kind of 3D prints and that kind of thing, and it looks really, really nice. However, this does all come at a price. the base retail value for this from FFG is $175.
Oh.
Now that relates into £130 in just direct conversion, but you're probably seeing something around like 150 quid if you're going to be getting this from a local store.
Yeah, or if you're getting it online and needing to get it
Exactly.
posted, because it looks like there's a good weight of cardboard in this, so it's not going to be cheap to ship.
Now,
And you need and you need your iPad or phone or whatever to play it.
Now that's fine if this is the only dungeon crawler that was out there, but there are so many other dungeon crawling games out there at the moment that I think $150, $75 is kind of pricing themselves out of the market unless this does something exceptional, and I'm willing to be proven wrong. But one of the things I talked about in the news article when I was writing it up is that for the price of Legends of the Dark, and this is only Act 1 of that, there's going to be 3 acts, right? So that's lots of expansions and stuff in the future. You could buy the original Gloomhaven and its side project called Jaws of the Lion for about the same price. And we know that they're proven commodities, if you know what I mean. Never mind Frosthaven, which is coming up as well. So again, the style of those games is different. Obviously, Gloomhaven is very much more Eurocentric compared to the sort of like Amerithrash version of Descent. And obviously, you've got that kind of all the stuff they've added in for the miniatures and the terrain and that kind of thing. But I still think $175 is a lot to ask. Currently, but,
I'm not too put off by the price. Yeah, it seems kind of steep. It's the artwork. It wouldn't matter what price you put on it. I wouldn't buy this because of the artwork.
So I don't know. I think this one might be a bit of a squib. You know, lots of noise on the way out, but once you get there, it's just a little bang.
Well, you see, that's where
nothing worse than just a little bang.
But that's the thing that I'm hoping that I'm going to be proven wrong, and I'd really love for people eventually when they get this game, because obviously people are going to buy this. There's a lot of people talking about it. When people buy this and play this, if they can convince me through the mechanics that it's a worthwhile investment for a cooperative dungeon crawler, then I definitely consider, maybe even part buying it with someone else and that kind of thing. But again, I already have Gloomhaven, so what are you going to do? But Gloomhaven shouldn't be the answer to all dungeon crawlers. There should be some innovation in the future, but maybe if this isn't it, we'll have to see. But that guy agrees.
He agrees.
As well as sort of some fantasy stuff, we're also looking ahead to some historicals. So for those people who don't know, Victory at Sea was an old naval war game in 1/800th scale that has been brought back by Warlord Games. And so to celebrate the release of their new hardback rulebook, they have decided to put together a whole bunch of new bundles for you to play through their naval World War II game. Now, the game primarily originally focused on the sort of conflict between the Japanese and the Americans.
Let me just give a shout out. Swing! Look at the size of that image.
Salute to Warlord. Yeah. So it primarily focused on the clashes between the Japanese and the Americans, during World War II. So all that kind of battles in the Pacific. But this book and the range in general also deals with the conflicts in the Atlantic between the British and the Germans as well. So there are 4 different faction sets for you to pick up.
Zoom in again, Lloyd. They've actually got the proper ship names on there. Or is it's either the class or the name?
I think some of them are proper named ships and other ones are classes of the ships. So which would make sense.
Congo there.
Yeah. So as far as I'm aware, the big old pool bases that you see there, like them or loathe them, are there with sort of like a gameplay element in there, which is pretty cool. We assume
you mean this stuff here? Are the ships actually cast onto those then?
Yeah, so they're cast onto that. So that's kind of part of the design of those.
Don't particularly mind that.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, if it has like a gameplay use, then that's pretty awesome, I suppose. But it's a shame. A lot of people would obviously go with like clear bases and that kind of thing. I suppose it makes recognizability a little bit easier on the tabletop. And obviously they look nice when displayed.
See, when you're playing a game, having a defined base edge like that instead of, I can hit the gun turret,
that's true.
Point it out to the left when you've built it. It gives you a very defined space.
Yeah. If anyone obviously has stuff. Yeah, if anyone obviously has any more information about this, it would be fascinating to hear what you think about Victory at Sea, if you've played it or if you've played the older editions as well. Sort of how
they've got the HMS Belfast.
They do, yeah.
You fired the first shot at Normandy.
Oh, cool! I did not know that. That's really awesome. Yeah. As well as the
and I've been on the ship because it's moored up in London. You can go on it and have a wander around.
Yeah. As well as the ship bundles that you see here, they've also been put together new different sort of faction sets for a selection of new aircraft. So you can see some presented in these bundles here as well. So you'll have flights of bombers and fighters that can be used to strafe enemy ships and also protect your own ships as they're heading out to battle. And they've also done deadly submarines and MTBs as well. So if you want to, go hunting Allied ships as the Germans in the Atlantic, then you can definitely do that. Or if you want to do some coastal raids with the MTBs, then you can do that as well. So you've got your motorboats there at the same time.
Geez, they're hard to see, aren't they?
That's 1/800th scale. There you go.
I think I'd just paint those grey so I can actually see them.
Well, hang
Ocean
on.
camouflage.
This is something that can happen, Lloyd. Sometimes you paint the camouflage so well, the stuff does disappear.
Very true. Yeah. That's
Just
how
just put the base out with anything on it and just go, yep, it's painted. You just can't see it.
Yeah. That's how I guarantee they hide the assassin in Warhammer World. They paint it to match the terrain and just sort of put it in the back somewhere. But, yeah.
Now, see, one of the best stealth paint jobs I ever saw that was put into a competition was someone took a base, did all their base in beautiful, and just put 2 footprints in for a Tau stealth suit. That's how you do it right there.
That is very good. Yeah. So yeah, if you're into your World War II stuff in 1/800th scale, you can dive in and pick up bundle boxes for all the different factions, as well as the new aircraft and submarines too. So yeah, loads of stuff there on that front.
Great.
Yeah, we're going to be closing out with some news that I was particularly interested by, and everyone else can go, oh God, he's talking about them again.
Oh,
But-
no.
Are we taking Saga, for example?
No, it's not Saga.
No, it's much more worse than Saga.
So
Okay,
the guys,
okay.
the guys at
Gotta be
Critical.
Bears and Badgers. Reset the clock.
No, it's not either. Right? Okay.
What? Okay, color me surprised.
It's Euro Truck Simulator. Don't
We've
die.
broken Justin.
Don't die.
So the
Oh,
guys,
I've had a cough for a couple of days. Don't worry, it's not that.
so the guys at Critical Role have announced that they are branching out into tabletop game design. So they have created a new wing to their business called Darrington Press, which is a nod to one of the characters from the first campaign. And they are working, it's led by Ivan Van Norman, who has done some amazing stuff in the past for Geek and Sundry. He's also designed things like the Altered Carbon role-playing game. He's done some other really awesome stuff as well. And it's also helmed up by the creative advisor in Matt Mercer himself. And they're going to be making tabletop games for you to play in terms of board games and card games, which is pretty awesome. Not just role-playing games.
I gotta say, it says here game art and design not final, but I'm actually kind of digging this art.
It's really cool.
That's so much cooler than that other MOBA style art that we were just looking at.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the super tuning art.
Yeah. So the first game here, which is going to be available in the first quarter of 2021, is called Ooooh, and it's based off a character, a Leviathan from the second campaign. But you don't need to know any of that if you want to play the game. So it's going to be a 3 to 5 player semi-cooperative game where you're trying to avoid the wrath of the Leviathan as it snakes its way across those sort of tiled bases that you see there, trying to hunt down your ships. It's semi-cooperative in the fact that you're all trying to work together to try and defeat the Leviathan, but you just might want to throw your friends in the way of the Leviathan if it means that you don't get destroyed, because the person who survives at the very end is the winner.
So every one of those meeples represents a ship?
Yeah, so that's a ship venturing out into the seas.
Or every one of those maples represents someone standing on the deck of a ship?
That's the ships themselves out there in the waters.
Is it?
So,
Yeah. Honestly,
Why wouldn't the tiles be sea tiles then? Why are they deck tiles?
and why wouldn't the meeples be ships?
Yeah.
Like you said, still in progress. I'm guessing.
I'm getting the feel. Surely that's got to be people being on the deck of a ship.
Oh, it might actually be that then. I may have got a completely different viewpoint of exactly what the game's about.
Yes.
But yeah, that makes
'cause
more sense.
On the box,
So,
there's one ship that it's attacking.
you know what?
So this
I
might be
stand
like an
corrected.
abstract encounter of your party members and your crew.
There you go then. I've been proven wrong. There we go. Wow, I didn't even see that. Crazy. Cool. But anyway, that's what the game represents, as Lloyd just said. So there we go.
Possibly.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we could say you couldn't see the wood for the trees, Ben, but I think you
Exactly,
couldn't
yeah.
see the deck for the meeples.
I couldn't see the deck for the meeples. Yeah, you know what it was? I was thinking of how it compares to games like Survive and that kind of thing. So where you're trying to like escape through water. That's what it probably is. But anyway, Ooooh is going to be the first game that's coming out in 2021. But alongside that, there's going to be 3 other projects that are coming out in Q2, Q3, and Q4. So they've also got a lot of stuff lined up. The first of these is going to be a massive big box adventuring questing game called Critical Role Adventures. So you'll play as the characters as part of the Vox Machina from the first campaign, going out to quest and defeat monsters in a typical sort of big box adventure style, which sounds pretty awesome.
So they've obviously been working on this for some time now in the background.
Yes, it definitely seems like so. That's so, yeah. Following on from that, there's going to be a role-playing game called Syndicult. So Syndicult is a role-playing game made by Matt Mercer, which is set in the modern day, but it's a world where there's low magic, but also crime cults. So you're going to be working as criminal cultists, trying to fight it out for territory within a sort of modern setting, which sounds pretty cool. And the final game that they've announced, there are no pictures for any of these, just in case you're wondering, is going to be called Guardians of Matrimonia. And it's a game which is another cooperative experience where you'll have a preset deck of cards and you'll be fighting together with your card decks to defeat a deck of monsters. The sort of spin to the game mechanics they've said is that if one of your characters is killed, then everybody loses. So it's all about working together to try and make sure everybody gets to the end.
See,
so
the name of that one. The name of that one sounds weird to me. The Guardians of Matrimonia.
It does sound really weird, doesn't it?
I don't think that sounds pretty cool, Ben.
I instantly thought, okay, you're a security team for like a high-profile wedding, trying to stop the crazy acts from breaking into the church.
You know it's pretty cool, Ben. You know it is. You know you want to say it's pretty cool.
I mean, it's by Critical Role, so it's probably just cool.
But is it pretty cool?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people drunk here because they're playing a drinking game. Every time you say pretty cool, they take a drink.
Oh, for God's sake. Have I been doing that as well? What was the thing I used to say? I used to say something all the time. I can't remember.
See, the one that used to be for me was the thing about it is.
The thing about it is, yeah.
That is a very Irish thing.
I always get little tics like this, you see. And now it's because you made me question my sanity around this ooooh game.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is
right.
Cool.
Moving on, we're going to take a switch and then we'll be back. Justin, you're going to show us all what you've been up to on your Conquest stuff.
Yeah, so up next, it's all about me.
Oh, yeah.
Does Warhammer 40k rock your world? Check out store.ontabletop.com today, where you can save up to 20% across a wide range of hobby games, tools, and paints, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Star Wars, Flames of War, Bolt Action, and many other incredible ranges. We are based here in Northern Ireland and rated 5 out of 5 on Trustpilot.
Alrighty, project time, Justin.
Yeah.
But before we get stuck in,
yes,
to your project, I just want to point out to people what the project system is. Yes. It's a really cool part of the OnTableTop website. If you peeps come on over to ontabletop.com,
yes, if you're on YouTube,
you will find a button up here on the top, and if you click that, you'll go through to the project system, which I've done. I've already pressed the button, and I've filtered it as well. So what I've done is I've come through to the projects, and I can immediately see loads of cool projects to do with Conquest. These are all ones to do with following along with what the guys are up to and they're on their path of conquest, and you can get that by clicking this wee button.
It's also all the community members who are joining along with us building Conquest armies. So that actual contest is basically a subcategory that we've set up. So if you're setting up a project, you can set that so that your project appears right next to everybody else's, and then you're not just in the big pot.
What happens is if you hit add project, ping, you will come to a page like this. And
hey, look, I didn't know you were starting a Conquest army.
You can fill out a few wee details. How do we cover and stuff like that? All easy peasy stuff. Down here, see this related conquest? If you pick that and then select the one that we're running and then start your project, that will then bundle it in with all the other projects that are being assigned to that actual tag. And then you can see other things that we've done in the past.
Yeah, and the cool thing is from there, you don't just instantly have to set it live. You can actually set it private to begin with, build it out the way you want it, make sure you're happy with how it's looking, and then set it live for yourself and your friends or for everybody.
Yeah, but if you want people to follow along, You would
Yep.
just set your visibility to publish
publish,
or to
yes.
friends.
Yes.
One of the
Right.
other cool things to note actually about the project system, just before we move on, is that while we use it quite a lot to show off painted miniatures and that kind of thing, people have used it for all sorts of different things. Like we've seen some people using it to chart their D&D campaigns, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Someone used it for
battle
building worlds and that kind of thing as well. So it's very, very cool for that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And on the Sunday show, the XLBS, we go through projects in there every week, picking out some of the coolest stuff and giving you all little awards and stuff. Sweet stuff. So if you want your chance to get a little award, get your projects in. You never know. We might be highlighting it. Right, Justin, your project, mate.
Yeah, so for anyone who has been living under a rock, myself, Warren, Jerry, and John have started our path to conquest. So basically, each of us has taken one of the 4 main factions from the Conquest game, and we're building up a 2,000-point army. Now, we have broken it down into 6 milestones, so it keeps like the workload reasonably, kind of, sort of, maybe within the realms of possibility. So for myself, I'm doing the Dwagon, which is the dwarf analog for Conquest. So I have recently just completed my milestone 1, and I've put my project together for it. So Lloyd, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up for me there.
Sure.
All right. Now, first thing with any project, I've done my cover image. The guys at Parabellum did an amazing job of converting all 4 of us into characters for the game. And I've been done as a Flame Berserker, which is my favorite unit from the entire game. Moving on down.
That's it. This is what you'll look like, Justin, if you ever fall asleep with one of your cigarettes.
No. No. I'd need hair on my head to burn.
Oh, yes, you're safe.
Yeah. Now, one of the cool things about the project is you can add text, you can add videos, you can add single images, and you can add galleries. So the first thing I've done is I've put the video out for my milestone 1. That's myself and Leo sitting down to talk through what's going into the army for that first milestone. There's also a link there where it's basically the steps of the army. Okay? Moving down, I started into building the miniatures. Now, there was some resin miniatures and some plastic miniatures in there, and there were quite a few to build because each unit stand had 12 miniatures on it. So that's my Hold Ray. He's the leader of my army. He's going to be my warlord. Very cool sculpt. I really, really enjoyed putting him together. He was only a couple of pieces, so nothing too severe. As you can see, I was building at home to start with, so things are a little bit all over the place. And you can see on the chests here, the way they've designed these miniatures is really cool. So you've got the A's and the B's and C's. That tells you what's to go with what. So everything fits
What A's,
properly.
B's, and C's? Oh,
On the top of the chest.
And then the beards cover those, don't they, afterwards?
Exactly, the beards cover this.
Ah.
You know, I do have to say the detail quality on these I'm really happy with. It's super crisp, and it's going to be perfect for what I'm doing with my painting.
It's one of the things that we actually talked about when we looked at the Dwegcon project a couple of weekends ago on the XLBS, where I'd seen some of the kits up close in their sort of bare plastics, but I'd not seen a lot of the sort of newer stuff in the Dwegcon in particular. And I was really taken aback by just how detailed they actually were. Like, I was actually like, wow, this is really cool. This is going to take paint nice. Very
We're going to have to give out a shout to Justin here. Justin, swing on the size of your images, mate. Look at it.
Yeah. Do you know why that is, Lloyd?
Why is that, Justin?
iPhone 11.
There you go. Every company out there, just go and buy an iPhone 11.
But even if you get a phone camera, is really, really good for taking pictures of your miniatures, because the phone cameras are just getting better and better and better, and it's super easy to use and super easy to actually get them up on. I actually uploaded some of these images from my phone into the project system.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, it's super simple. You're not transferring files about. You're not bouncing them all over the place.
That's how easy it is to use. The project system is fully mobile aware. So if you scale this down onto a mobile, you can still use it.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, so the 3 units I started off with is I had some Thanes, which are these guys. So these are kind of like an elite hard-hitting unit who are pretty badass and pretty cool looking with axe and shield. If we move to the next pictures, we should be able to see the units built. So I believe the first one is a unit of Hold Warriors with the Hold Ray in there. And whenever they're all ranked up, they do start to look pretty mean and pretty cool.
Is this a combination of plastics and resin then, or what's going on
It's
here?
actually, so the characters are all resin. The miniatures are all hard plastic.
Even this dude with the slightly different
there was just a slightly different colored plastic, but it worked exactly the same. There was no problems with it. So if you open a box of these and find like a different colored sprue, don't worry, it's all the same hard plastic. All will work with your Revel glues or your workshop glues or whatever you want to use. The next one is the Hold Ballista. So these are my light ranged option, who are basically just going to be coming on the field early and laying down some covering fire for everybody.
Light ranged option. Look at them; they're still covered in armor.
Yeah, I know. No, it's actually something I really, really love about this particular unit is most ranged units, whenever you get them in a game, they're good at range, and whenever it comes to, you know, up close fighty, they're not so good. These guys can hit just as hard as the Hold Warriors.
Very cool.
Yeah, which makes me really happy because it's just like, okay, I'm going to charge your range. Haha. Yeah, they're still kind of going to stab you in the throat. And then you've got the Theans, who I love the look of these guys. You know, they're a little bit lighter armored, but they've got more of that. We are bigger, tougher, ready to just take you down. And I love the variations in the weapon designs and the armor designs.
Very cool. These guys look just badass. Bring it on.
Yeah. So everything was built at this point, so I had to move on to painting. And I decided for this one, I wanted to cheat painting as hard as I could. So first things first, color primed with lead belcher. So
interesting primer choice.
so just a plain, nice silver metal. And I think you're going to be very impressed with what happens working through this. So that's actually for my next phase, is that unit. So I've kind of been building and priming ahead. But for the actual units themselves, whenever they're built and primed, we don't need to see every last one of them, but it just goes down nice and clean. And I'm very happy.
Because you can see the detail better in these photos when they actually have the primer on them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with those kind of more standard units, yeah.
Yeah, we see this is why I like doing like a metal prime, because it means at the end up, I'm not having to go around and do tons of tiny little highlights. The metal will shine and do its own natural highlight, which I think makes it look better.
That's very true. It works especially well for a heavily armored force like the Dwagholm, that's for sure. Yeah, I could see the same kind of thing maybe working on some of the units for the 100 Kingdoms as well, actually. Probably, especially for things like the Knights and the heavily armored infantry options.
Well,
something that's meant to be majority metal.
It'll be interesting to see how your skin gets on, because that's the bit that freaks me out when it comes to just spraying a whole army in a metallic colors.
I actually do just paint the skin, because there's not a huge amount of skin on them. I'm not too worried about doing that. Now, you've got my paint selections here. So the first one there is showing off what I've chose for all of my beard colors, right? Because I wanted to do an experiment with this where I would do 4 different colors in beneath the beards and then use the Gryph-hound orange to actually finish off, and so that I would have 4 different tones running through the army.
Oh, okay. Cool. So
that's what I'm trying with that. The next image is basically some of the basic colors I'm using. So I've got some Sirius purple in there, I've got some Talisar blue, Nazreg yellow, and I've got a pot of lead belcher for the very simple reason that once in a while it's good to do a cleanup round on your miniatures. So you just go around everything, look at where you've overstepped, and just tidy it back in a little bit. And the last one, this is some of the main colors I'm using. So I'm using the Monster Brown for any like cloth and leather work. The Brain Matter Beige is actually my skin tone. I've got the soft tone there for the final thing that goes over everything, and I've got some matte black in there. Now, the one thing that I didn't take a picture of, which I forgot I'm going to have to fix, is the skin tone is actually Dark Oath Flesh over Brain Matter Beige.
Right, okay.
All right, now, for this first segment of the army, I just wanted to push on and actually get it done so I could begin to understand my scheme. So here we have the beards being done, right? So if you click the first one, so there's the 4 colors and the Gryph-hound orange at the end, right? So Drake Tooth, Ash Grey, Uniform Grey, and some Gorgon Hide, right? The next image is showing that base color down to show how it looks once it's actually down there. Right?
Which came first?
So it's just in the same order as you saw in the previous picture.
So you paint their beards and skin this color, and then you paint the beards this color, or what?
The skin is actually a different color again.
All right, okay.
So that's Drake Tooth, Gorgon Hide, and then the other 2 colors, right?
Oh, you're doing a variety of beard shades. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So each of those colors corresponds to its position there, okay?
Yes.
And so then when you jump to the next one, I put Gryph-hound orange over the top of everything, and it just gives some subtle differences in how the beard shading turned out. Now, it worked better on some than others, but whenever you see the final product, it works very well.
You can see the real distinction between, for example, the one on the far left and the far right.
Yeah,
because you've got like almost like a
grading down.
Yeah, so you've almost got like a light, proper, old school ginger style beard, and then almost slightly more of like an auburn one at the other end.
Yeah, like a chestnutty color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it works
this
quite
is
well.
it when it's wet. When it dries out, it does turn out far, far better.
Yeah.
So the next thing down in here is just me powering on with the painting. So you can see where I'm choosing the blue and stuff. It's just going over the metal directly, which is giving you like a nice candy shine through there, which I quite like. I then use the Monster Brown for like the pants, the tops of hats, and for like shoulders here and there.
Yeah.
And I think that all works pretty well. And you can see here those beards, now that they're dried off, they are starting to look a little bit nicer. So
I think you can see a lot more of the definition in it now, which is quite good.
And you can see that tonal shift a lot better amongst them.
Yeah. Plus, if you wanted to retone some of these, you could just give them another wash of like a soft tone or a strong tone or something to vary the shade even more.
It actually comes into play at the very end whenever I'm doing my soft tone on them.
Yeah.
So next up, I got everything painted as far as I could, and it was time to base. So whenever everything was painted, like so, you can see it's just really nice and super clean. Yeah. Now, these I believe are pre-wash, or no, those are post-wash. So you can actually see the beard on this guy here, the second from the right. You can see the highlights and stuff are coming through a lot stronger because I put that little bit of soft tone on there.
Yeah.
So it just deepened the shading that was already happening from the contrast.
So one of the things I liked about this when I first saw this stuff was I thought that the blue was a nice way to contrast it as well. Like, because you often see like standard fantasy dwarves almost done in sort of like earthy tones.
Yeah.
So sort of greens and yellows and browns, that kind of thing. But it was nice to see blue using as like a spot color. So that's pretty cool.
And you see the gold that's on there. That is Nazdrag yellow straight over silver.
Wow, that's nice as well. Yeah.
So it works so well for giving you like a nice old gold feel to it.
Are you ready for this, Justin? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Give you a wee skill point. Bang.
Oh,
Look at that. Just logged in.
Thank you kindly. All right. Now, basing itself, I want it to go super simple. So I'm stealing a technique from Jerry. Found a bag of like mixed basing material that we had used for scatter terrain on a table. So you've got rocks, you've got bits of flock in there, you've got bits of like clump foliage, just a nice big mixture of stuff.
Some static grass probably in there too.
Yep, some static grass and stuff in there. But it gives you a nice randomized like field base.
Yeah.
And then whenever they start getting based, it just works really well. So just a bit of super glue and just run it around the inside of that, and I think it works really well.
Your skin's come out well. I was afraid of the whole shiny skin thing, but you've probably ended up with quite nicely highlighted skin out of it.
Exactly. That is brain matter beige with dark oath flesh over the top, nothing else.
Very cool. Very cool.
And again, you can see how well those beards have came out. And then overall the metals there is just a bit of soft tone just to give it a little more depth.
To dull it down a little bit more as well.
Well, it's more not to dull it down, but you see in the recesses of like arbor plates and stuff, it's to draw those lines out a little bit.
Oh, right, yeah. That's what you mean.
And it just gives them a little bit more contrast, even though it's not a contrast paint.
Now, an interesting thing that I was looking at with the basing, I've always used PVA glue for bases. Why is it that you use the super glue instead of the PVA?
Super quick drying.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. That makes sense. Yeah.
PVA takes a long time to dry and set. Super glue, once it actually starts to interact with some of the basing materials, it actually cures it super fast.
Right.
The downside is it can look a little bit patchy in its coverage.
It can. I think the only thing I would maybe do if I was doing this again from the start is I would maybe paint the tops of my bases brown.
Yeah.
And that would soften that patchiness because the black's very harsh between it.
And the other thing,
but as it stands, I'm happy with it.
And the other thing you'll get from using super glue as your basing method is you'll get shininess going on here. But if you give it a good old dose of a matte coat spray or something after that, you can tie that down. But it's a little awkward because you're trying to get the matte coat spray to go in amongst all the foliage and stuff like that to try and hit those bits. So maybe a little bit of paint on. It's a way of you can get your army onto the table real quick that way. And then if it's still bugging you, if you've got little shiny bits and stuff, you could give it a paint on matte coat over that.
Well, like, personally, it doesn't bother me because I know I'm always going to see these miniatures from about 3 feet away, so I'm not really going to be up super close like we are in the pictures, seeing that shininess as much.
Yeah, that's what you get for taking. Well, I can't really see it in the photos, but I'm saying it probably is there if you looked.
Yeah, if you're looking for it. But you can see how that rough mixed basing material works really well together.
It does. It's better than them just walking across a nice flat field.
A plain green field. Having all those like random little bits, it looks like real ground.
Yeah. And then he has this advantage, Ben, of being able, there's your shininess there, but he has the advantage of you could literally play with that 15 minutes later.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, even 5-10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Now, I did take some final pictures of these because I wanted to see how they would look on a gaming mat. So I took each unit, put it on a gaming mat, and got a nice clean shot of it. Floyd takes a second to open them up. And
I really like how the Hold Rag turned out. I think he's really cool. The big character. I think that's awesome. The rest are obviously very nice as well, but that guy in particular is very cool.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I didn't really have to do much extra work to him.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, like, you see how the beards turn out with that one little extra hit of soft tone. It makes it look as if I've done like multiple layers to get highlights and stuff in there when I've done absolutely nothing to it. It's just the base coat, the Griffhound orange, touch of soft tone, bang.
Perfect cheap paints.
Yeah.
Those are really cool.
Yeah. So you've got the whole ballista there, all looking really, really good like that.
The only thing I'd do, I think, to those now is I'd run like a brown paint around the bottom of the tray.
I like black.
I wouldn't though, now that it's done that way, because you'll be into chipping paint.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, me, personally, I like a good black edge on my bases.
If I was going to paint them, if I was going to paint them brown, I paint most of my bases a monster brown. I would definitely paint them first, and then you can get a coat of varnish and stuff on them before you do the basing at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that, Lloyd. And then there's how the whole thing's turned out.
Those are cool. I like them.
Yeah, and again, I've kept my color palette very, very narrow on this. So I picked out a few colors that I really wanted to like draw out some details here and there. So the Nazdrag yellow for the gold, the blue for some nice armor plates. You know, I did the purple down the edging of the weapon to make it almost look like an onyx. It was less successful because it's very matte. I think I put it down a little too heavy. So I will be experimenting with that in the next phase.
Like you can see it particularly on this guy here. It is about that's fixed though, Justin. You could just paint over it again.
Well, again, because I've done it in a color where I can just hit it with another coat of the original color and then just rewash it down, it's not a big issue. And then this guy. So this is for my milestone 2. So he's one of the flame berserkers, and one thing I really want to do is like a blue-green flame. So this was like my first super quick experiment with that. So I will be doing a lot of that across the next 2 phases. I will have fire. So I think this is where I want to go with it. But that's just a little preview for everybody.
So your Dwagam's going natural gas.
The BP Dwagcom,
Well, it's kind of more of an etheric flame thing, because one thing cool. I also did, so in the series that we've been releasing alongside all of this, I actually got to sit down with one of the main story creators, Konstantinos, who works for Parabellum, and talk about creating backstories for your army. So I actually do have like a little 2-page short story written for the Force, which I may or may not add at some point because it's my crappy English writing.
That's still cool though. I always like it when a project inspires you to do something beyond just doing the painting and stuff. I think that's really, and it's something that's good about doing something like the Path of Conquest is that you're encouraged to do that, especially like, you know, you take those breaks between doing part 1 and part 2 to do something a little bit different, and you know, even just play the game as well. So.
It's also the fact Conquest has a living world on their main website where things are moving, growing, and changing within the world and moving the storyline forward, which is quite cool. I mean, like whenever I was typing up this little short story, I had a scene where like my main leader was in a forge, right? And he's one of the tempered, so like a flame berserker, his hands are on fire, his head's on fire, and I thought, if someone's bringing him food, how would they have to do that? And I actually wrote a very short scene where someone brings him in his lunch, but it's like a half-cooked sandwich, which will cook while he's holding and eating it.
Cool.
Little things like that make me really happy with the Force.
It makes sense.
You know, and but it's those little incidental story components that really bring a Force to life for me.
Speaking of cooking, I assume that when they want to cook stuff, they just get some guy's head and just hold it underneath the pot.
Well, that's the thing. If they're a whole segment of their society, they would all have to be, if they were handed a cooked meal, they're going to burn it. So it has to be like half cooked or not cooked so that as they're eating it, it slowly becomes cooked. And it means they have to eat really fast because otherwise it's going to overcook while they're trying to eat it.
Or they need giant birds to just regurgitate it into them, and they're like, oh, like that.
No. Like, no. But no, I've really enjoyed this so far. I'm about to move into my milestone 2. Not this weekend, but the following one, we should have milestone 3 landing. So I am beginning to fall behind a little bit. But now that I have my initial color scheme completely worked out, I think I can really get some speed going on this.
No, I think one of the cool things about the kind of technique that you've used for the army as a whole is that it allows you to effectively keep up to speed with what's happening with the process of Path of Conquest. So it allows you to get things tabletop ready, because one of the big things I always find when it comes to building an army is that you'll buy it in January and you won't play a game with it until February next year or something. Whereas with something like this, you're encouraged alongside the other people on the community, within the community, to sit down and actually get enough done to play a game really quite quickly, which I think is really cool. Yeah,
well, I mean, like currently John is closing in on the end of his milestone 1. I think he's just working on some of the ogres, which is the like big giant ogre guys from the Nords. And John has really been enjoying it as well, because he's been using similar techniques, but he's went down more of appreciating route. But I'm sure you'll probably see him sitting talking about his in the near future.
Yeah, maybe next week, possibly on the weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, chappies. Excellent work, Justin.
I'm proud of myself. I'm feeling very proud.
I think you should be. I'm going to go back to that project and smash some more buttons. Speaking of smashing buttons, remember, get your comment in, smash a button, subscribe. You could win a bloody tank, a maze ball. Right, we're going to take a wee break and then we'll be back to do the Kickstarters.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
So we're diving into some Kickstarters now. We have 2 to pick up and dive into. We have one that is sci-fi based and one that is very much horror fantasy, which is perfect for this time of year. So the first of these is from
almost perfect. Not quite as perfect as an Orktober tank.
Whoa!
Which you could win today.
Yeah.
Smash the buttons.
So the first is from Battle Systems, who are good friends of ours. We enjoy checking out all their games. And this is for Core Space Firstborn. Yeah. So Core Space Firstborn is a standalone, but also mixes in with the original game set within the Core Space universe, which is as well as being sort of tied into sort of standard versus play, can also be used as a solo or cooperative experience as well, which is pretty perfect for these times that we live in, where no one can see each other, apart from through the medium of digital computer screens. But anyway, in this set, you're going to be playing as the crew of the Eidolon, who you can see there, sculpted into those fantastic 32mm resin miniatures. And then you'll be going up against the Firstborn, who are an alien race who have these mighty temples set within the galaxy.
Let me get the video up, because I think we can get big pics in that.
So these are the whole sort of focus around this is that you'll be diving into a particular narratively driven campaign where the crew of the Eidolon are going into these temples in search of loot and all sorts of different things like that. And then they'll be facing the Firstborn, these alien menaces on the tabletop. One of the cool things about everything that Battle Systems do is that they tend to not only just work on these really awesome miniatures, as you can see here, but they also do this fantastic cardboard terrain that you slot together, and it looks brilliant.
This is what I was talking about when we were looking at that other game earlier when it's cardboard. I was like, wait till you see this stuff.
Yeah. Although I'm looking at that robot, I kind of just imagine him like K2SO.
Yes.
You are being rescued. Please do not resist.
Yeah, it's a little bit between like K2SO and the robots from
Fallout New Vegas.
Titanfall, I was going to say, but yeah.
Well, with the big face.
Yeah, the little funny smiley faces. Yeah, it's pretty cool. One of the good things about the sort of Core Space game, and Justin can more talk about this as well because he played some of the game himself, but one of the cool things about it is that it's got almost like a real search mechanic to the game. So instead of things being sort of prescribed to sort of certain locations, you actually have to open boxes and see what's inside them, which I think is really, really awesome.
Yeah, and you've got limited carrying capacity, so you can find yourself trading stuff in and out of boxes. Say you find like the ultimate ray gun, but it takes up like 3 slots, you're going to have to look and go, I'm going to need to drop my med kits, my pistol, and my search goggles. Okay, I has big gun.
Yeah. So yes,
Oh, the wormy worm.
yeah. So everything's been put together in here so that it's a really easy and sort of quick to dive into product for you to just basically start playing Core Space. The Kickstarter itself contains everything that you see here so far. So you've got the rulebook in there for playing Core Space Firstborn. You've got all of the terrain. You've got all the components as you're seeing here.
Oh.
You get all the little plug and play things, which is really cool.
I know the robot that I'm thinking of, Chappie.
Chappie, yes, got Chappie to it as well. Yeah, very cool.
I can't quote Chappie or Ryan's going to be sitting beeping all day.
And then, of course, you get the miniatures and everything like that.
Oh,
But
that's
on
interesting.
What?
Sorry, go back. You have half-sized items now.
Oh,
You
so
mean
they're not
this?
just all big
That's-
ones. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a new thing.
That reminds me of actual sort of survival horror games where you have to manage your infantry. That's cool.
Yeah, and then you've got your ability sheet down the bottom there. As you level up, you can actually gain extra abilities to do extra stuff. You've also got your armor slot has now moved up onto the character card, I see, which is quite nice.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about this game is that you've got that kind of narrative element to it all, which I think is really nice. And it sort of carries over between missions as well, which I think is a really nice addition to the game. It's genuinely, from the Ghost of Battle system, a labor of love in terms of art, design,
I think
and sort of composure.
one of the things I like about this is definitely the bookkeeping system and the fact that it's all contained in these trays.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you're tracking your health. I can't remember the second one, and your ammunition, because you can actually run out of your ammunition while you're mid-match.
That's cool.
You know, and it's semi-cooperative, so there's like a nice balance to this game, because whenever you're both starting the game, it's not instantly just we are coming in to murder each other. It's you're coming in to search the location and complete your missions.
And
So
then
you're more
murder each
focused on. Well, there comes there's always a beautiful tipping point in all the games where it's just like, okay, I've got everything I can, but you've got a rather nice kit there. Can I have that? No, you can't. All right, I'm going to shoot you to have that. You know, and even then it can flip again, because I played a game where things went wrong and I had to hitchhike out on the other team's ship.
It's one of the cool things about obviously this is that you've got obviously the standalone experience of playing Firstborn, but it also links into everything that Justin's just been saying, because everything that you get here can then be taken out of this and used within the traditional game of Core Space, which came out sort of last year in 2019, which is pretty awesome. So.
Although I'm loving the design they've went for on this one, because it's kind of like a fallen, forgotten, ancient, high-tech society, and that's very different to what you'd normally see in games.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it sort of steps away from the kind of sort of mashed up sort of space stations and that kind of thing that we saw in the original set, which was really nice.
Which we're seeing here.
Which we're seeing here, yeah. But you played that on the tabletop. Which
Well played, Lloyd.
And sticking multiple sets together is cool as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you this is very, very expandable.
One of the nice things about the Core Space range in general, and we've heard it from a couple of community members, is that a lot of the focus has been on them really trying to make the game not just accessible, but like friendly for all levels of people who want to play it. So if you want to pick up just like a couple of crews and maybe one set of terrain, that's perfectly good opportunity to play the game, just as if you wanted to play a big monolithic thing and all that kind of stuff. And also, all the things that you see here as part of this campaign are going to be available later on down the line. Obviously not for the prices that you see in the Kickstarter, but you'll be able to dive in and pick up all the stuff here that you see. Which is
now, I will say it does look like they're really starting to up the quality on the miniatures, seeing some of that engraved detail and stuff that they're putting into there. So.
An interesting thing, if you're sort of looking to learn more about the Core Space world, is that over on their website, which has been revamped quite recently as well, they go into a lot of like short stories and narrative stuff about all the different characters and the crews and the alien races and how it all comes together. So if you're interested in learning more about the background, they have loads of stuff in there to sort of, you know, be a little bit of a teaser before you dive in and play it yourself properly.
Yeah, so. I'm really digging what they've done with the miniatures, the terrain, everything's really good. And they've really expanded a lot of the incidental pieces, because that's one thing that they're really known for is you're not just getting a game board, you're getting a populated board. So it's got, you know, like little chests, pillars and stuff littered all over the place. So the board feels more alive than in other games because it's got that extra real world clutter to it.
Yeah.
And the price point seems to be pretty good too. I mean,
yeah, it's about $89, I think, for everything, which is
Not
pretty
bad,
cool.
not bad.
And as well as the course set,
£89.
£89, sorry, yeah. So as
Plus
well as
shipping.
For that, you get what? Do they have like a picture? You get
yes,
all
they
the
do. So
lists.
if you keep
Yeah.
scrolling down, you'll see the full run through.
If you compare £89 for all of that to what was it, 150 for
$175, 150 quid, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
this
yeah.
just kicks the ass off it.
Yeah, so this comes with the Firstborn core set, which is an entirely self-contained game in of its
Oh,
own.
look
But
at
you
that.
also get the Fury of the Insane Gods expansion, which comes with a miniature, and that miniature is 120 millimeters tall.
That's weird. It looks like it's standing on 3 individual bases in that picture.
It is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting miniature design.
Because that means you can move it in around the tight terrain, you see, because it just sits on the 3.
Yeah.
That's
So it's got
cool.
room to sit over that. That's
Rather than
again,
trying to fit a big
that's-
massive base in.
that's Colin being as clever as he always is.
Colin's a designer, by the way.
Yeah.
That's who we're referring to.
Yeah, we've done Let's Plays and videos from events with him, and he's just one of the nicest guys you could ever meet within the industry.
Yeah, if you are actually interested in learning more about how core space plays, sort of mechanically, we have like loads of Let's Plays up. We have a how to play sort of like going through a round, and then we also have 2 like full Let's Plays that we put up quite recently, sort of like in recent months and stuff. So you can go and check those out.
I think it was pre-COVID.
It was most of it was probably pre-COVID, but there you go. There's one of ours. There's our round breakdown. In fact.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Now here's the question: Are our dates now going to have to change from PC into AC?
After COVID. Very true. One of the other cool things they've done as part of this is that if you already own core space, then you don't necessarily have to dive in and pick up Firstborn. You can just pick up some of the additional stuff. So you can buy, for example, all of the terrain if you want.
Yeah, and all of this terrain, if you lay it out correctly, you can actually use this to build some really incredible wargaming maps, because that was one of the Let's Plays we did. The guys at Core Space actually did like an Outer Worlds colony set that you were able to build up, which was very, very fun to play on.
It's a really awesome little Kickstarter, this one, from a company that has been doing really well over Kickstarter in the last couple of years. They've delivered on pretty much everything that they wanted to, nice and early and everything like that. So they've done fantasy terrain just before this, which is astoundingly good and would be really good for a lot of like mass battle and skirmish stuff. Obviously, they have core space. Everything that was available previously is now up on their web store, which was revamped, and now you've got this as well. So,
yeah,
lots of really good stuff coming out of these guys.
Yeah, and their stretch goal gapping is very, very good, because you're not having to see like masses upon masses of people dive in before they're on to the next one.
And the cool thing about it is that it's upgrading what already exists, if you know what I mean. So it's not overloading you with things in such a way that it's instead it's doing things like pose upgrades. So you've got more different choices within the units and stuff, which I think is really good. So,
and I think the fact that it's an expansion essentially, but a standalone expansion is really cool.
Expand alone.
Expand alone.
Yeah.
Being able to just pick up the box set and go play it on its own.
Yeah.
Cracking, and then pick up the box set and merge it into what you already have is really appealing. They're really appealing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not delivering until I think they estimate October next year. But the way things are going in the world, having
October.
having another solo cooperative experience is probably a good thing. So,
very impressed. Very, very, very impressed with what they've done with this one. Nicely done, folks.
And the quality of the stuff, we've seen the previous sets.
We have.
And it all turned out to be cracking looking stuff.
Yeah. And
detail in the...
Yeah. And Colin, the designer, has never done, but he's improving on what he's working on. So he's always looking at ways to make it better, to make it fit better, to make new and more interesting room designs and terrain designs.
So where are we? Funded? Yeah,
we are funded. Yeah,
and it'll be 20 days to go. Yeah, from when you were seeing this.
Yeah,
sweet. Oh, here we go. Look, let's just finish on them. Look at these.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about. Those
I may have misspoke earlier, by the way. I may have said they were resin. I'm not entirely sure what material they're made of, but you can.
Well, they weren't resin. Yourself, they weren't resin in the previous set. They were like
they're probably plastic. So just so you're aware.
Yeah. There was like a PVC type plastic or something, but there was actually really good details on the minis when we got to finally see the finished box sets and stuff. Unless I'm misquoting, but I think that they're probably going to go down the same route as last time.
I am sure it's in the Kickstarter somewhere. best thing
Yeah.
to do if you're curious is go and check the Kickstarter.
Yeah, definitely. Just go and check that just in case.
Mhm.
So we're moving on from a sci-fi exploration style game to a fantasy one. And you will have seen some content about this over the last couple of weeks. So we did an interview with Mythic Games, and also we've had a Let's Play go out as well, which Justin will talk about later on as well.
Myself
But
and Jerry.
yeah, this is a dive into, and a reminder that Darkest Dungeon, the board game from Mythic Games, has 7 days left on its campaign from the time of you viewing this.
Gee
And
whiz,
it is
2 million.
so close
Yeah.
to 2 million.
Yeah, so
I mean, they've obviously made over $2 million with conversion, but I only count in pounds.
Yeah. So this is a board game analog adaptation of the digital PC and console game by Red Hook Studios called Darkest Dungeon, where you will be slightly flipping things on its head compared to the video game, where you're not playing the sort of like overlord character, but instead you're playing as the characters themselves, these mercenaries, these heroes, as they dive down into dungeons to fight off myriad horrors and deal with absolutely terrifying bosses that are trying to steal your souls, make you go insane, and just generally kill you as well. In the traditional fashion of a dungeon monster. The game itself is really cool. We've had a couple of, as I say, we've had the Let's Play. I had the chance to demo it as well, which was pretty nice. And it's really done a good job of taking a lot of the concepts of the digital game and translating them over into the analog. There's a really nice way that the stance system works, where you're sort of at your marching order as you're going down through the dungeons. I love the effects of, traps and sort of how the darkness itself sort of invades your mind as you're delving deeper. And a lot of it is sort of based within those kind of roguelike mechanics of the digital game as well. So if you liked that kind of pressing your luck sort of mechanic and mentality within that game, then you're definitely going to enjoy it here. As you can see, they have done a hell of a lot of extra stuff for this. So as well as the base game, they've also got some expansions as well. So they've got expansions for the Crimson Court, the Cove, and the Warrens, which introduce sort of Cthulhu-style enemies, vampire-style enemies, and also beasts too. But yeah, I'll let Justin have a chat about this because he's had a chance to play it and he can give you a sort of more first-hand view of it all in gameplay. So.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest challenges for this game, because it's a horror game where you're constantly being put under the pressure of how far can I push my heroes.
Yeah,
this game has done it really well. Now, anytime I play this game, I have been the whipping boy. I have been the one that the monsters have just looked at and went, tasty, have you? But it really gives you a very clear sense of it's a fun game, it's a tactical game, and yes, there are quite a few components to lay out on the board, but everything is baked in. It's I can only call it a Mythic game because it plays like a Mythic game. Mechanics are clean, everything's clear. As soon as you understand what you're doing, the rulebook gets out of the way and you just play. And I mean, like I had tons of fun because I was playing as the Highwayman in the Let's Play, and another character, Bounty Hunter, I was playing because the way the game works is there are always 4 characters down in the dungeon. Mm-hmm. So you can play this game from 1 to 4 players. And the way you do it is if it's 1 player, you control everybody. If it's 2 players, you control 2 characters each. If it's 3, someone controls 2, the other 2 control 1. And if it's 4, you get 1 each. And that makes for a really fun experience because it's a very similar experience. But things change really, really rapidly in the dungeon because you have different dungeon layouts. You have different missions for each dungeons. And you have different bosses for each dungeon. There was one that we played against where every non-undead character that we killed off was removed from the enemy deck. So basically, you were more and more likely as you continued to play that mission to come up against undead characters. And they've also engineered in, you can see here, the actual town map as well, where you can, if you scroll up, where you can actually go and do upgrades, drop your stress levels, heal your characters, buy trinkets, get new heroes in there. So it really is really push your luck in this game because if you don't stay in the dungeon long enough to earn the XP you need to level up, you're going to get to the final boss and be too weak to deal with it.
Yeah, it's a game where they've definitely thought a lot about what the digital game brought to the screen, and then translated that over really nicely into the tabletop version of it. And I think it's as faithful as it could have been.
really
without
is.
it sort of like maybe tipping off the other end and sort of being too video gamey, which I think is really nice. So it really worked for me as like someone who loves those kind of big box experiences, like things like Gloomhaven and that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that should be noted, obviously, is that it comes with all those miniatures, and they have been lovingly crafted based on the actual artwork from the 2D digital game. And
Yeah,
I really like these. I think they look amazing. I think
I have held the resin masters of these in my hand, and they are fabulous. The translation from the artwork to a physical character is so faithful to the art style of this game. Just super impressive.
Yeah. Another one of the other things that I really quite enjoyed about this, and it was something that I only sort of saw in a little bit, sort of doing during the demo of the game, but I really liked that there was a sense of mitigation about everything that you did, and the failure of anything was more or less just down to you. Because one of the things that I always find with big AI-driven games like this is that you can sometimes have experiences where the game just screws you over and you can't really do anything about it. But there were so many opportunities when we were playing to be like, okay, if we do this and then this, and we do X and Y, we'll be able to make sure that this guy doesn't attack and this guy doesn't do this. So it really has a nice cooperative spirit to it, which I think is really key to an experience like this, which I think is really good. So
See, I know
apart from when we threw Justin under the bus all the time, which was really cool. But
yeah. Now, for me, I don't really mind if a game is going to hammer me once in a while, because that for some reason makes me feel better when I beat it. It's kind of that pandemic thing, because it's such a hard game. You have so much more of a feeling of worth when you actually do manage to beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean, and I think for me, it's one of those things where if it feels like it was unjustly beating you, that's the problem. But I think the Darkest Dungeon has that really nice level about it, where it's like these are the challenges you must face. If you lose, it's probably your fault, and I quite like that about it because it's quite tough. A bit different from normal dungeon delvers. Which is
cool. And the AI design in this game is very, very straightforward. It's all baked into cards and stuff. You're not constantly referring back to rule books or anything.
Yeah, it's a really awesome little experience. And as you can see, Mythic Games have done a hell of a lot of work on this.
They have.
Lots of miniatures, lots of expansions, as you might imagine. All of this comes together as part of a Kickstarter exclusive package. So if you do want to pick this up, then you will need to dive in and get it now. So.
Yeah, the one thing we forgot to mention is the levels of character customization you have in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Because as soon as you go back to town, you are completely free to start trading out abilities and talents and then leveling those up to actually tailor your team to do as well as it can down in the dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought there was some really nice stuff in the way that they've done the powers. Like I kind of flicked around with the idea of, I think it was the bounty hunter, and he had some abilities where he could kind of like drag people towards him and then hurt them or mark them to do extra damage. But maybe if the party you're developing doesn't have the ability to utilize that in the best fashion, then it's a good idea to switch things out and play things a little bit differently. So there's plenty of customization options, as Justin was saying, that make this, again, feel just like the digital version of the game.
Yeah,
so.
And it also has the trait system in it from the video game, so you can have like negative traits, positive traits, quirks, and things like that. Which it's just absolutely fantastic. I really love playing any game that Mythic makes, and this is a quality game, as good as anything they've done any time before.
Yeah. So if you're interested in this, make sure to go and check out the Kickstarter. As I say, there's about a week left on the campaign as it stands. But if you liked the original Darkest Dungeon, or you want a dungeon delver that's a little bit different in style and scope, then this is definitely one to go and check out, even if you just go and look at the sort of like core pledge for this one. So
yeah, that, and you are able to download the rulebook right now in your language.
And watch our videos.
Sweet.
My God, they're going to have to make nearly 18,000 of those.
That brings us to the end of another Orktober show. Yeah. Remember, peeps, get your comment in, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel for your chance to win that Orktober tank. Amazing. And remember to come on over to OnTableTop.com to check if you won last week's prize. What was last week's prize? It was an epic Conquest starter set, or you could pick an army set instead.
Yeah, so you could either get the 2-player start set, or you could pick one of the individual ones. There are various selections for you to choose from. But if you won, go and check the prize claim for. So.
Excellent.
Or if you think you won. Yeah.
Right, chappies, we're going to move on. If you enjoyed the show, you should come on over and try the XLBS show on Sunday. You can sign up for a 30-day free trial and become part of the cult of games. And then you
Not
can
a cult.
store lovely mugs on a Sunday morning as well. What a way to wake up. Get your coffee, tune in, and enjoy. Bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.